Hi, welcome to WikiTree 2023 with the Scotland Project. My name is Sandy, and I'm very proud to introduce two members from the Scotland Project. We have Sheena and Amy that are pretty active in the Scotland Project and are here to give us a little bit of information about their ways to join the project, how to get involved in the project, and a little bit more information about the geographical areas of Scotland. So let me start with Sheena. Sheena, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Sheena. I'm the baby leader in the Scotland Project, and I only got my nice shiny new leader's badge a couple of weeks ago. I live in Scotland, was born in Scotland, and it's the middle of the afternoon and a nice sunny afternoon in central Scotland at the moment. I'm the leadership contact at the moment for membership questions and for geographic questions. And I'm also a sorcerer. I'm one of the people that wanders around and adds sources to your profile so that we actually know they really existed and they're not just fantasy somewhere.
We appreciate that. Trust me, we do.
And the other person here is Amy, who's our mother leader. She's the most senior leader in Scotland.
Welcome, the old hat. So, yep, I've been part of the Scotland Project probably for 5 years. I guess it'll be 5 years in January. Senior leader. I help pretty much. I kind of took a step back a bit from leadership, and I just support our existing leader group and do what I can to help our members wherever they need me.
I will let everybody know that Sheena and Amy, their true love is Scotland and genealogy. So I am thrilled that both of you are here today to kind of walk us through and let us know what you're doing with the project on WikiTree, but also how we can get involved and help with WikiTree. So I think the very first thing that we should do is let's show the project page that we have. The Scotland Project on WikiTree is one of our most popular projects, actually. I'm not surprised. I think a lot of us feel that we have a love for Scotland and that a lot of us have some DNA that traces back to Scotland as well. If you are interested in joining the project, this is very similar to every project homepage. You just go to the box and there's always going to be something called an Answer G2G welcome post. Click on that link, follow the instructions on the post, and that will get you started, as well as getting you into the system for the Scotland Project membership to know that you're interested. But there's a few steps that you have to do to become a member with the Scotland Project. And I'm going to ask Amy to kind of go through a little bit of the steps. So, Amy, if I'm not a member, and I want to join, I go to the G2G and I fill that out. And then what happens?
So you'll receive a message from Sheena, I believe it is, when you join and welcoming you. And then you will get your package for joining our Tartan Trail, which you'll start out with a profile you'll work on. You'll add sources, you'll learn to write a narrative biography, you'll learn how to cite sources properly. Then that gets submitted for a review by a guide. And once you pass, then you'll go on to the next level.
And let's take a little bit to explain for those of you that are unfamiliar with the Tartan Trail. It's an introduction to Scotland and learning how to source using proper sources for that particular project, as well as a pretty much full profile for a person, instead of just putting up information and saying they live between this date and this date and here's one source and go. The Scotland Project's Tartan Trail gets you started on what their requirements are, how you can find the sources for that location, that person, and sometimes they might not even be a person. Sometimes it might be false. So the tartan trail really helps you through that. Let's jump over to the tartan trail real quick. So first thing I'm going to do after I get my membership information from Sheena is you guys are going to assign me into the tartan trail. And for those of you in WikiTree that are familiar with the PIP program, which is the profile improvement program, this is very similar, but it is tailored to Scotland. As you know, as you go through different country projects or even topical projects, each project on WikiTree has certain requirements that drill it down to their particular interest. So the tartan trail is going to do that for me, right, Amy? It's not going to
That's right.
be generic. It's going to help me understand.
So it's focused specifically on Scottish genealogy. So, and I mean, that's whether you're trying to connect back from the United States to Scotland or whether it's an entirely Scottish profile. You need to know where to look for records, how to cite them, what records are available, because there are some records that just don't exist anymore. So when you first join the trail in level 1, you're going to focus on sources in your research, how to write research notes, how to
and the research notes are important because especially when you're dealing with a country that you might not research a lot with, if you leave these research notes, then somebody else might come and find this profile and at least see where you've been and how far you've gotten to try and find a biography and a sources for them. I do want to point out too, probably one of the most important things with level 1 is that very first sentence, that you'll focus on the time period between 1800 and 1875. Is that because the sources are a little easier to find for those?
Yes. Excuse me. Those are the types of sources that you're most likely to find on the free websites like Family Search, Scotland's People, FreeCen, which is the census website.
And then we should probably mention Scotland's Places as well. Well, this is a recommended website, and I love it because you say Scotland Geography 101. This is going to be the main resource for that. Everybody keep this in mind too. We're going to talk a little bit about the geographical locations, but let's jump to Scotland Places right now. And how would I use this for sources?
So if you know the county of the person that you're looking for, what you can do is go to the county. So say Sutherland, that's where most of my research is. You can go there. And up in the top, sorry. So on the enter the search term in the top corner, yep. You can type in Dornoch, which is spelled Dornoch. And then hit enter.
I think I spelled that wrong. D-O-R?
Dor, N-O-C-H.
N-O-C-H, there you go. There you go.
And so you can see there, just because a record says Dornoch doesn't mean that it could be either the parish as a whole, or it could be the town or a burgh.
So this allows me to kind of dig into this particular area instead of all of Scotland, kind of get lost in all of Scotland with a similar name.
Yep. And it helps you pinpoint maybe where that ancestor came from. It can get quite involved because there's under the texts, and quite often there's images as well. There's maps and things that you can look at that'll help you narrow down and rule out actually a lot of things that may be not pertinent to your ancestor.
And I think very similar to other locations, when you have that same last name and you're looking through all of Scotland, the chances of getting something incorrect are probably high. So if you can drill down under Scotland places into a particular region that you already know this person comes from, then you rule out a lot of incorrect information or incorrect families. So is this site free to
It
use?
is,
It
yes.
is. So that's great.
Yeah.
And it was really easy. It's just scotlandplaces.gov.uk. So
That's right.
really easy to get to. Okay, let's go back to the Tartan Trail. So I'm going to
Yep.
go through the Tartan Trail, and I'm going to go through level 1. There are 2 levels to go through.
Mhm.
And if you are also new to WikiTree, this is a great idea because it goes through step by step how to write that biography, how to use the sources and put them in a profile correctly. We mentioned the research notes, which are invaluable for other people coming in, whether they're WikiTree members or not, to see how far you've gotten. But the biography help is really a good idea too, because sometimes we take the simple way out and we don't really talk about a person's life. We just say they were born here, they married, they had kids, and then they died.
Yeah.
But everybody has had a life. So you also provide a little help with that biography to kind of point out that person's life from the sources and the records.
Exactly. We kind of try to tell their story because
And I think that's one of the great things about WikiTree is we're not just doing those sources and those timelines. We're also telling the life.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now that I've completed that, what do I do now? I've got level 1 done.
So once you have level 1 finished and you're ready to move on, we require level 2 in order to get your Scotland badge and become a full project member.
And this
And
is
level
a little
2,
tricky, right? This one says between 1700 and 1799. So we're getting a little bit more detailed and tricky.
that's right. You do need to have your pre 1700. Oh, for this one, no, you don't. Sorry, that's the next level. So this one, yeah, and it basically it focuses, it helps you fine tune what you've learned in level 1, become more comfortable with citing and using inline citations. Again, we need to have the research notes on the profiles so that other people know what's been looked at, what's not been looked at.
And this kind of goes into what I call making the profile very easy on the eyes a little bit. You're talking about stickers. What are appropriate stickers? Probably detailing a little bit more about the categories and in locations. So this is almost like an advanced profile that you've got your basic skills, but let's beef it up a little bit and let's make it a little bit more interesting to the and pleasing to the eye, so people will stop a minute and not only review it and read it, but they'll know for sure if this is somebody that they're working on for their ancestor line. Or I love stickers. I won't lie, I love stickers on WikiTree. So that's one of my favorite things. How do I graduate? How do I grad? So level 1 is reviewed by someone on the team. Is level 2
So
reviewed?
level 2, you actually work one-on-one with a guide to help you detail and fine tune things so that your profiles are hopefully as complete as possible and as accurate as possible. And once your guide feels that you have mastered everything you need to know, then you are given your badge and you get to pick a team
And that's
and work in the project.
so I go through the level 1. Is about how long does it take to go through level 1 on average? I know everybody's different.
Sheena, you might have a better view on that.
Well, we allow a month before we start chasing you for level 1. Level 1 is what we'd call distance learning in the UK. It's self-guided. You read your lessons and work on your own.
Yeah.
But on Discord, we do have a special channel for Tartan Trail hikers. So if you get stuck, you can ask there. And we've got members from just about everywhere. So there's usually somebody around that can help you out if you're really stuck.
And that's good to know too. So even though you're learning on your own with level 1, you're not stuck out there on your own. You still
That's
can
right.
reach out. And for those of you that do not know, that WikiTree has something called Discord, which is a way that we do instant communication. And you can either chat with somebody live if they're there and ask them a question, or leave it in the channel and somebody will probably come back and answer it very shortly. Because like you said, Scotland project is one of the largest ones that we have on WikiTree. And then if I graduate, can I instantly go into level 2?
Yep. So then our Tartan Trail coordinator will get you set up with your new profile and match you with your guide, and then you continue on.
And I'm glad you mentioned something. So when we're going through the Tartan Trail level 1 and level 2, the Scotland project actually gives you a profile. You don't have to have one
That's
already, right? Okay.
That's right. We've kind of gone through and collected a whole bunch of orphaned profiles, which helps the project clean up our orphans and make sure they're looked after.
Okay. And now that we've talked about the Tartan Trail, so just to keep everybody refreshed, when you want to join the Scotland project, you're going to go to their main page and answer the G2G, and that's going to trigger a response from Sheena, who's in charge of membership, and she will let you know the path that you need to go. And the very first thing you need to look at is the Tartan Trail level 1. You got about a month. And if you haven't finished in about a month, then they will come asking
knocking on your door.
Yeah, if you need help, is everything okay? Do you need a little bit more time? And if you finish, it's reviewed. And if you pass the review process, then you can go to level 2. And level 2 is going to be a little bit more trickier because we are dealing with 1700 time frame versus the 1800. And once you pass that, then you get your official Scotland project badge. And if you don't know what that is if you go to your profile on your right side, you'll see these little colorful badges, is what we call them. And once you pass the Tartan level 2, you will get that badge. From there, I'm new. So what do? I have my badge. It's all nice and shiny. I have everything I need. I think that the next thing, I need to join a team.
That's right.
And I will say that every project out there has pretty much the same type of system. It will be listed differently, but joining a team within a project is fun. It really is. That's how you keep connected. So if your goal is just to join the project and just to be able to research or just to be able to get a badge, that's okay too. But joining a team with a project and helping the project in any way, that's where the true fun comes in and the true collaboration.
Exactly.
So I need to join a team. The geographical one seems to make the most sense to me if I'm researching ancestors or people in a certain area.
Yeah.
So I would go to this page. Now, help me out, Amy. I don't know what to do.
Lots of our newer members will join the geographic team to help them, one, learn the geography of Scotland and some of the political boundaries and parish boundaries and understanding the difference between the two. We've broken it down into regions. Excuse me. Which helps keep the counties kind of grouped together in a logical format. I actually look after the Highlands and Islands region teams. And my personal research is focused in Sutherland, but I do a lot of work in Caithness and Orkney. Not so much the other ones, but I have family and ancestors that have spread out across northern Scotland, so that's my interest.
Sheena, where do you mostly research, and what region?
Just about everywhere.
Yeah.
To be quite honest, well, all my family's Scottish.
Mm.
So I've got ancestors from Caithness, I've got ancestors from Lanarkshire, from Ayrshire, from Edinburgh. I've got family in the borders. My husband's family's from Aberdeenshire. Just about the only place I don't research is Argyll, Shetland, and Orkney.
So you are truly in Scotland.
Yeah.
So what if I don't know where my ancestors come from? I have an idea, but I don't know where they truly have come from. What would you suggest I do? And this is coming from a very personal example. I know I have Scottish ancestors. You know, DNA says the path shows for sources. I have not created any Scottish profiles yet. I've graduated 1 and 2 Tartan Trail, and I just don't know which one to join. Is it okay if I'm pretty sure they're in Sterling that I join the Central and East region?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. So for an example, I spend a lot of time working with the diaspora team, which helps connect people in Canada or the United States or Australia and other countries, connect or follow back to Scotland and help pinpoint where their ancestors may have come from.
Okay, so that's really cool. So, you know, when we're talking about that, we typically have an idea or a lead, a really good, strong lead. And then the Scotland project kind of helps us figure out where the region or the town might be from where they've come from.
Yep.
What about for those that I think, are you talking mostly from those that have left Scotland? What about those that have come into Scotland? I know that, for example, a lot of French have come into Scotland as well. And that would be a region that I could search if I knew where they landed in Scotland.
Right. Actually, I personally don't do much with that kind of research.
It would depend when they arrived in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are some specialist research resources online that look at Scots, and this is before 1700,
Mm-hmm.
who were in Scandinavia. There's a whole academic project and database about Scots in Scandinavia. There's another one about Flemish Scots.
Oh, yeah.
And again, a database goes with that. If it's modern, and for want of a better term, a lot of the census terms will tell you which country your ancestor came from.
Okay.
And I would say that you're not limited to just one of these regions. So, you know, kind of as Sheena said, that you work in all of Scotland. But I think if you're just starting out, pick one ancestor and start down one region, start down that line, and you might see some movement, you might not, and then add to it. And Sheena, I'm going to use you as an example again. If you're searching just your ancestor line, you might have 1 or 2 of these regions, but when you add in your husband's line, then you might have completely different regions. So remember that you've already passed the Tartan Trail 1 and 2, and this is where you get into a little bit more specific research for your own lines or your own interests. And the collaboration is fun. This is where you actually get to work with the other members that are researching. I think the one thing that I find when I collaborate with other projects, especially the country ones, is someone always pops up. Oh, I have somebody from that region with that name. We might be connected. And that's the collaboration. That's the part of when you join a project, also join a team as well.
Yep.
Okay. So as we talk about this is really a good way to get started with the locations as well. And we talked about Scotland places that also helps, as Amy kind of mentioned, she goes into Sutherland, and then you even drill down into a different region within Sutherland to try and get more accurate research. Now that I'm here, and what happens next to the profile? I've already passed the tartan 1 and 2, and I found the location, but then how else can I help the project as it goes along? I'm working on my ancestors. I might be at a brick wall, or I might just want to take a break from looking at the sources, because Amy and I were laughing beforehand. You don't always assume sources in a different country and maybe in your same general language are easy.
Exactly.
So and I will say that from my own line, there have been some false additions to ancestors that either were not on my line and need to be cut, or just imaginary people as I go through. So I think the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is how I can not only make sure that my information is correct, but how can I help the project in different ways? This right now is all helping myself and my ancestor line. And I think to help the project in different ways, we should probably talk about the pit crew that comes up. So, Sheena, can you tell us a little bit about what this pit crew is? I love the name.
Pit crew is the profile improvement teams. And we look at more at the technical side of WikiTree. It's not something that's all that easy for a beginner, because it's things like mistakes in reference formatting, or it's creating new categories, or cleaning up GEDCOMs. But some people just love writing biographies, and we've got a team just for that. You know, these biographies you keep talking about, and there's a list of bullet points.
Yeah.
So, you know, birth, marriage, death, but there's absolutely nothing in the biography.
It's distressing, because you know that this person lived a life. And are your census records similar to what we might see in the US, where they do give an occupation?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's a start. That's a start maybe of the biography. And maybe if they were married and who they were married to, maybe that start is from somebody from a different region in that family. What did that family do? So if you are a writer, if you like to write and you like to explore how to make a person's life come alive, that Bio Builders team is a great option for you. And I love that you said that, Sheena, that some people just like to write or write biographies. Yeah. So if you want to join one of these pit crew teams, you can join all, some, one, two, you know, whatever you feel comfortable with, that you feel like you have the time to help. And I think across WikiTree, BioBuilder is one of my favorite, because I like to see the profiles come alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think the first team I ever joined in WikiTree was the Sorcerers team.
Ah, what made you join that? What led you to that?
So irritated with all these claims about so-and-so was born to so-and-so, and they did this, and they moved to Scotland, and they moved to Ireland, and they moved back to Scotland, and they moved to America, and they had children back in Scotland. I'm thinking, what?
But they were living in Ireland, and then they all left.
Yeah. So let's
talk about the sorcerers then. And I know that this is one of your passions. This is one of your loves with the Scotland project in particular as well. That putting in these sources. Now, let me share again a little bit of a story. So coming from the US, and a lot of us have these stories of where, well, I heard my family said it was, you know, folklore passed down through my 8th great grandparent, and it got to me just yesterday that this person was, you know, a famous relative or fighter along William Wallace's, probably his best friend. I have no sources, but this is what I heard. So this is where Scotland kind of helps us out, where you can come in and kind of look at those sources and break it down to what is correct, what is the real person, or like I said, maybe they need cut from the team. So tell us a little bit about this page. What does Scotland do when it comes to the Sorcerers team?
We find sources for the profiles.
And what happens if I have a profile? Can I come to your team and I just can't find a source? Can I come to your team and reach out to you maybe in Discord or here where your name is and say, I think this person is a real person, but I can't find a source. Can you lead me to where I might need to go?
The best place to ask is probably in GTG,
Ah,
the
there you go.
forum, and use the Scotland tag.
That's a really good tip. And then you guys will find it and pull it out.
Yeah,
And
there's a whole lot of folk can help you out, rather than asking one person who might be overwhelmed with work at that point, or might be having family problems or away on holiday or anything like that. If you ask in GTG, the whole team will see it.
we'll see it and come out. Now
Yeah.
we do need to take a little pause here and mention that with the Scotland Sorcerers team, and you'll find this a lot throughout all the projects, there's a couple things that you really need to know right off the bat. So if you pass the Tartan Trail 1 and 2, you've got your badge with the Scotland, and you can come in and help. They would be glad to help. Write a bio, connect, or source, add sources where there be. There's are some requirements that are outside of Scotland as well, and then there's some requirements that are inside of Scotland. So let me break this down real quick. The requirements that are outside of Scotland, if you are wanting to source anywhere in WikiTree pre-1700 profiles, you do need to get the WikiTree pre-17 certification. And that's easy to find. Just do a search on WikiTree and that will come up. But you do need that to work on pre-1700 profiles. Now, Scotland has been around a lot longer than that. So if you want to work on pre-1500 profiles, that requires a very special process that you need to go through. You do need to apply for that as well, and you need to be connected to a project that is working on pre-1500 profiles. Scotland happens to be one of those. That, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Amy and Sheena, but once I apply for that and I mention Scotland, then the team that approves that badge will come back to you guys.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So keep that in mind. That so if you are a member of Scotland Project and you want to apply for the pre-1500 badge, and this applies for pretty much all the countries that have this requirement, if you put down that you're a member of a project as well as a sample profile, they will come back and talk to the Scotland leaders just to make sure that, for example, Scotland, you're going through the Tartan Trail 1 and 2 as well. So that's kind of what we talk about with all the projects that you need outside of a project. Now, each project also has special requirements that you need for sources, and it could be something as simple as you like sources from a certain area as well. Does that make sense, Sheena? For example, you go to find your Scottish people for the website.
Yeah, Scotland's People bills itself as the official source for what medics call vital records, birth, marriage and death records, and census returns and wills for the whole of Scotland. It's the only place on the internet where you'll find images of all those records.
Wow. So that's really important that everybody heard what Sheena said, because I know a lot of us from around the world were used to sites like Ancestry or Family Search. So Scotland's People is going to have a full collection for me. So if I want to look at the documents in more details, they're going to have it. They have a beautiful webpage too that kind of shows you more information about the records and what you'll find.
Yeah.
I know. Help me out again. I believe it's free to search.
It's free to search and to look at the index.
And then if I want the actual document, if I see the document,
buy an actual view an actual document, Scotland's People works in what they call credits. If you go up to the top of the page and click on the Our Charges link, it explains And the minimum amount you've got to pay is £7.50. I'm not sure what the exchange rate is at the moment, but that gives you 30 credits, which is effectively 5 birth, marriage, death certificates or census returns or parish register
Oh, that's
images.
good. Okay, so that's good to know. So in batches of 30 will give me about, so you're saying almost every image is about 5 credits?
4 to 5, yeah.
Okay.
6 credits.
So
Okay.
6.
Yeah.
So that's good to know. So if we come back over to Scotland's page for the sources, and this is really great too, because you have a list of team members, project members that also research in this area. You might find that collaboration in a certain region or with this person per the time period, which is great. Again, I can't say enough about once you join a project's teams, join their sub projects as you go in, because that's where you really get to know more about how to research the people of the country and also fellow team members, which is always fun. So I did talk about that the Scotland project has some requirements that are within the Scotland project, and you give us a full list of do and don'ts, which is really handy. There a lot of times we look and we assume that what is good for one profile of maybe somebody who passed away in the year 2000, maybe it's not the same for that time period for early on. But also, if both somebody passed away in 1500 and 2000, there are some generic rules each project has, and you give us these as well.
Yeah, because just because you found a book that says, I don't know, Joe Bloggs was Louis Wallace's second cousin, it doesn't necessarily mean that's true, particularly in the 19th century, the Victorian period. There was a whole industry in writing family books, the family book of blogs.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, the authors were paid, and were paid by people who wanted famous ancestors.
They wanted them matched. That's interesting. That's a very good tip.
Yeah, and if they couldn't find the records, they made something up to join the gaps.
And we're assuming that's a source, and it's just not.
And it's not. That's right.
I will tell you.
That's why all the pre-whatever projects have a list of unreliable sources.
Yes.
It's all these books that have printed lists and names, but they haven't told you where they got the records, their information from.
It's so just the name in there.
How reliable it is. I mean, there might be brilliant researchers,
but we don't know.
We don't know. We can't check it for ourselves.
And I want to point out too that I know that for notables in every project there are additional little rules, but these do's and don'ts are for every Scottish profile. This isn't just separate saying, oh, these are only for fancy or notables or really important ones. These do's and don'ts are for every Scottish profile. And the best thing to do is to do the tartan trail 1 or 2 and go through this, and you'll learn this as well. And it'll become second nature. As you start creating profiles, you'll start to see this. And I think you'll get to a point like Sheena and I were talking beforehand, you'll see Scottish profiles that maybe are not sourced or not sourced properly. And then you'll start adding the unsourced Scotland template.
Exactly.
And that will add to the list. Well, I guess the next thing to do is to talk about how many unsourced profiles does Scotland have? And they are brave. This project's brave. I'm actually going to borrow some of your information because I love it. So you do talk about a lot of good things. So source when you go, make sure that if you're creating profiles, add the source. Don't skip through that. And you do have challenges. You have the monthly challenges, but you also have teams for the Connect-a-thon and the Source-a-thon as well. Yeah. And I love this, smash a brick wall. If you have a Scottish brick wall, now Amy has told me I don't necessarily have to be a project member. It would be helpful though. You can put your brick wall here and someone from Scotland will come and kind of look at it. It won't be instantaneous. If I put this here in the next 5 minutes, I'm not going to get an answer in 10 minutes because it does take some research. But this is a great idea. I love this. And if you guys notice, only one person is taking them up on it. So I'd love to see more people add their brick walls. See if we can break them down. Okay, so let's talk about those unsourced. Scotland's very interesting to me because, like I said, you go back a long way. You're just not only doing modern unsourced, you go back quite a bit. So as I scroll down, I'm just going to scroll down to show you the unsourced. I'm looking at a big number there. I'm looking at the 32,853. That's a pretty big number.
Sounds like a lot.
Yeah. And if you look at the table too, look at this is the timeline that we're going through as well. So this particular team within the Scotland project would love to have your help.
Yes. I'm the sorcerer team leader.
So we've already said, let's join the bio builders team. Let's make a profile, a person's life come to life. But let's also join the sorcerers and make sure that we can prove that life as we go along too. So I love this. So if you have any questions about the Scotland project and where to jump in, you could always look at this table. Now, Sheena goes through this and updates this. This is a weekly count of unsourced profiles. So she goes through and I love seeing the up and down arrows as well. And as we go down towards the current October 10th, for example, you actually made some progress. Sourced 191.
Yeah, that was during the Sourceathon weekend for me. It's a joint team with the Ireland project.
So that was really great. Now, I think I should also, before we scare everybody, explain the difference. So this is the 32,853 is the current unsourced profiles that are tagged with the unsourced.
Are marked as unsourced, yes. But the number in the last column is the total number of profiles that have Scotland in a location anywhere.
So those could be people who were born in Scotland and left the country, or stayed in the country even. But based on these two numbers, I'm going to guess that these are a lot of profiles of possibly immigrants that left as well. And
you'd be surprised. There's
really
people that stayed in Scotland. Yeah.
And the profiles are created, but just not sourced as you go along.
Yeah, because people don't know about the Scotland's People website. They rely on the big ones that advertise in the telly.
Yeah.
Ancestry and Find My Past over in the UK.
Mm-hmm. And if they went, and like you said again, the Scotland's People website that we showed you, they consider themselves the source repository for the people of Scotland. Right?
Scotland's People is run by the Registrar General for Scotland, which is the office that carries out all the birth, marriage and death registrations and carries out the census returns for Scotland. So they've got all the records.
So you're going straight to the source to get these records.
Yeah. A lot of the other sites like Ancestry or Find My Past might have some of the records, but they don't have all of them.
And they often don't have images.
They don't, the only images you'll find in Ancestry are images that people have uploaded from their own collections.
And that's handy too, even at a small charge. So if you're working on your ancestors, having those images are really special. It makes a profile special. It helps source the profile. But as you go through and you see some of your ancestors' documents, that's a way to build a biography for their life as well with those images. So it's really makes the profile special for the Scotland project. So I guess.
Sorry, Sandy. I think it's important maybe to know, to explain too, that the project doesn't expect people that are going through the trail, for instance, to purchase records from Scotland's People to view them. The index is sufficient for those purposes.
And that's a good point. So if you go to Scotland's People and you just take the citation without the image, then that isn't a source. That's a source. Okay, ladies. So as we wrap up this presentation of kind of touring the Scotland project about how to get started, how to actually become part of a team, and then how to help the project. Is there anything that we left off that you would like to mention?
I don't think so.
No, can't think of anything offhand.
And I will say that if you have any questions, then reach out to Amy or Sheena. I like Sheena's idea too. If you have a question about a particular location or an ancestor, feel free to do a G2G post. Don't forget that under the pit crew team as well, there is the Smash My Brick Wall. So after this presentation, I think you guys will have a few more of those brick walls to go smash, and it'll be interesting to see. I want to thank you, both of you, for joining us for the WikiTree 2023 presentation of the Scotland project. I know I've learned a lot. I hope others have learned a lot. And let's see how many people will come through the tartan trail and make it through. So I'd like to say thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.